Nobody expected the story to take a turn this dark. What started as another strange but entertaining update from the world of TLC's 1,000-pound sisters turned into one of the most shocking legal scandals reality TV has seen in years. Amy Slaton Halterman, once celebrated as one of the most loved and relatable reality stars on the network, suddenly found herself at the center of a criminal case involving drugs, endangered children, and a bizarre incident involving a camel. The public first learned what happened after a report surfaced that police had been called to the Tennessee Safari Park. At first, the story sounded almost unbelievable. Officers responded because Amy had allegedly been bitten by a camel. No one imagined that a simple animal bite report would expose something much darker, something that would forever change how millions of viewers looked at her. Deputies later confirmed they found marijuana and illegal psychedelic mushrooms inside the vehicle Amy and her partner Brian Laverne were traveling in, while her children were also inside the car. The arrest stunned the public, not just because Amy was a well-known television figure, but because this wasn't her first run-in with the law. Fans immediately flooded social media, shocked, confused, and heartbroken. Many had followed her personal journey from food addiction and obesity toward motherhood, emotional growth, and the promise of a healthier life. This sudden revelation felt like watching that story shatter in real time. The judge ruling over the case made it clear that the law wasn't taking the matter lightly. Amy and Brian were sentenced to nearly a full year, just over 11 months, due to the drug charges. Along with the sentence, the court ordered them to pay fines, attend a certified parenting program, undergo drug and alcohol assessments, and comply with a list of strict requirements meant to prevent anything like this from happening again. As news spread, anger grew. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were furious. They questioned how a mother, especially one who publicly shared her journey and inspired others, could make such reckless decisions while her children were present. The arrest immediately fueled a fierce debate about whether Amy had spiraled, whether the pressures of fame were finally breaking her down, or whether this was who she had always been behind the cameras. The timing of the scandal added an even heavier emotional punch. Amy's image had always been built around vulnerability, humor, and relatability. She wasn't polished. She wasn't perfect. That was exactly why people loved her. She showed her struggles openly, her weight, her mental battles, her emotional past, and her fans saw themselves in her determination. So now, seeing those same vulnerabilities turn into public chaos made everything feel personal, even painful. People who once defended her now questioned her judgment. What hurt most for the audience was not the drugs themselves, it was the fact her children were present. That detail turned what could have been dismissed as a reckless accident into a serious conversation about child safety, custody, and whether she was fit to continue being a full-time mother under such circumstances. Longtime viewers remembered the years of emotional pressure Amy carried. Fame had changed her life overnight, but not all change is healing. The cameras followed her through surgeries, relationship breakups, complicated family dynamics, and motherhood. All the while, the world watched, reacted, and judged. Support felt conditional. She could only be celebrated if she continued improving. Any mistake became public property. As reality TV grew, so did the cost of living in the spotlight. Some fans now wondered if the show didn't just film her struggles, but fed them. Still, there were defenders. Some said Amy didn't need hate. She needed help. They speculated the drugs were a coping mechanism, not a lifestyle choice. Others blamed the environment. Reality television, pressure, scrutiny, trauma, motherhood, divorce, expectations, too many stressors layered on top of one fragile person. But sympathy didn't erase consequences. The camel bite incident became the tipping point where private issues crashed into public legal severity. Officers who responded weren't looking for drugs. They were only making sure everyone was safe after the animal bite. But once they discovered the substances, the situation escalated instantly. Body cam and witness accounts described the moment as chaotic. Reports claimed Amy looked overwhelmed and panicked, while her children appeared frightened and confused. As word spread online, hashtags trended. People dissected every detail, from past interviews to old Instagram posts, to look for signs. Some argued this wasn't sudden at all. It was a build-up. The warning signs had been there. Reality television forums exploded with theories. YouTube commentary channels produced hour-long breakdowns. Photos from the safari park posted earlier that day resurfaced. Fans zoomed in on Amy's expression, posture, and tone, trying to determine whether she already seemed intoxicated, overwhelmed, or distracted in those videos. Meanwhile, legal experts weighed in, reminding the public that possession of illegal substances where minors are present dramatically increases penalties. Even if the drugs were intended for personal use rather than distribution, the legal definition of child endangerment doesn't care about intention. By now, what could have been a contained legal matter had grown into a national conversation about parenting in the age of viral attention, reality television accountability, and whether networks have a moral responsibility toward their stars once cameras stop rolling. TLC found itself pulled into the controversy. Critics asked, if millions watched Amy's life unfold, shouldn't the network also provide support systems, not just filming contracts? Still, the network remained publicly quiet at first, likely calculating its response carefully. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed emergency meetings were happening. Should they remove Amy from filming? Pause production? Turn the scandal into a storyline? Or distance themselves entirely? No matter what they decided, the ripple effect had already begun. Fans questioned whether watching people struggle for entertainment was harmless or exploitive. The scandal stopped being just about Amy. It became a mirror reflecting how celebrity culture sometimes rewards pain until it destroys the person living through it. Amanda took a deep breath as she walked back into the waiting room, trying so hard to stay strong, but her hands were trembling. The hospital air felt cold, thick, and strangely silent, like the world had paused and was waiting with her. She sank into the hard plastic chair next to the vending machines, wiping her eyes quickly before anyone could notice. A few minutes later, her sister Misty walked in. Misty took one look at Amanda and instantly wrapped her arms around her, and Amanda finally let some of the emotions she was holding back slip through. Her voice cracked when she whispered, almost as if admitting it out loud made it real. He's scared, really scared. Misty rested her hand on her shoulder and said softly, I know, but he's strong. And he's not alone. Amanda nodded, but the fear remained. No matter how many comforting words she heard, nothing could quiet that one horrible thought echoing in her head. What if the doctors come back with bad news? What if this is worse than anyone realizes? Her phone buzzed again, messages from cousins, friends, and even fans online offering prayers and support. Normally, she might ignore mixed reactions from the public, but tonight, every message saying we're praying for him felt like a lifeline she didn't know she needed. Then the nurse approached again. For a second, Amanda's heart nearly dropped because every time the nurse walked out, it meant there was news. She stood up quickly, bracing herself. The nurse gave a faint smile and said, he's resting. He asked if you were still here. Amanda laughed through tears, a tiny laugh, shaky but real. Oh, I'm not going anywhere, she said, her voice full of determination. As she walked back toward his room, she whispered a quiet promise to herself. No matter how long this takes, no matter how scared I am, I will be here. I'll fight for him, even when he can't. And in that moment, even with fear still lingering, she felt something else rising inside her, strength. When Amanda stepped back into the room, everything felt different. The lights were dim now, the machines humming softly, and her son looked so small lying there with wires and monitors attached. His breathing was steadier, but the sight still hit her like a punch to the chest. She quietly pulled a chair closer and sat beside him. For a moment, she just watched him. The way his eyelashes fluttered as he slept, the way his hand moved slightly every few breaths. She remembered when he was little, when she could fix everything with bandages and hugs. Now, she could do nothing but wait. His fingers twitched again, and she reached out, gently holding his hand. His eyes blinked open, tired, cloudy, but aware. You're still here, he whispered, his voice weak, but filled with relief. Amanda smiled softly, squeezing his hand. Baby, I'm not leaving. You couldn't drag me out of here, if you tried. He tried to smile back, even though pain flickered across his face. She could see it, the fear he was trying to hide, the questions he wanted to ask but couldn't. She leaned closer and brushed his hair from his forehead. "It doesn't matter how scary this gets," she murmured. "You're not facing it alone. We're going to get through it together." There was a pause, long, heavy, and then he whispered, "Mom, am I going to be okay?" Those words shattered her. She swallowed hard, pushing down the wave of panic she couldn't afford to show. She nodded slowly, her voice calm even though her heart was racing. "You're strong. And the doctors are doing everything they can. I believe you're going to come out of this stronger." A tear slid down his cheek, and Amanda wiped it away before it could fall. "We've survived worse," she said softly. "This is just another battle." He squeezed her hand, weak but meaningful, and finally closed his eyes again, exhausted. Amanda sat there quietly, holding on as if it were the only anchor keeping her upright. The fear was still there, sitting heavy in her chest, but now there was something else too. Hope. Hope that tonight wasn't the beginning of something worse. Hope that tomorrow would bring answers, healing, and relief. Hope that her baby, no matter how grown he was, would walk out of this hospital smiling again. And as the quiet settled over the room, Amanda whispered to herself, "Please, please let him be okay." Hours passed, though to Amanda it felt like days. Nurses came in and out, checking numbers, adjusting tubes, recording vitals. Every time the door opened, she held her breath, waiting for news, good or bad. At one point, a nurse paused beside her and offered a sympathetic smile. "Try to rest, sweetheart," she said softly. "You've been awake a long time." Amanda shook her head. "I will. Just not yet." The nurse didn't argue. She simply nodded and left quietly, letting the room fall silent again. Amanda leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for just a moment, not sleeping, just breathing. Her body was exhausted, her mind beyond overwhelmed. Every second felt like she was balancing between breaking down and holding everything together. Her phone buzzed again. Messages poured in, family, producers, friends, and fans who somehow already knew something was wrong. She ignored all of them. Tonight wasn't about the show, or speculation, or the world watching. Tonight was just about her son. Just as she started to put her phone away, it rang. This time, it was Chris. And something told her she needed to answer. She stepped into the hallway before picking up. "What's going on?" Chris asked immediately, his voice tense. Amanda exhaled shakily. "They ran more tests. They think it might be an infection, something serious. They haven't confirmed anything yet." There was silence on the other end. Then, "You need anything? Clothes? Food? Someone to sit with you?" Amanda closed her eyes. The lump in her throat made speaking hard. "No," she whispered. Just pray, Chris. I don't care how, just do it." Chris's voice softened in a way Amanda rarely heard. "Already did. And I'll keep doing it." For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was the kind of silence where fear sits between the words. Finally, Amanda took a shaky breath. "He asked me if he was going to be okay." Chris let out a long exhale, the kind someone makes when their heart is breaking too. "What did you tell him?" "That he was strong. That we'd get through it." "You did good," Chris replied. "He needs to hear that." Amanda nodded slowly, wiping her eyes even though no tears had fallen yet. I just need him to come home." Chris swallowed audibly. "We all do." She didn't know what else to say, so she whispered, "Thank you," and ended the call. When she stepped back into the room, her son was still sleeping, peaceful now, chest rising in slow, rhythmic breaths. Amanda walked back to his bedside, placed her hand gently over his, and whispered, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And then, finally, not because she was calm, but because her body couldn't fight anymore, she closed her eyes and rested her head beside his hand, drifting into a light, uneasy sleep. The machines kept humming. The room stayed quiet. But inside Amanda's heart, one message repeated, over and over. "Please let tomorrow be better." Amanda woke up to the sound of footsteps and hushed voices. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was until she felt the cold hospital room air and saw the monitors beside her son. A doctor stood near the foot of the bed reviewing charts, his expression serious, but not panicked. Amanda shot up from the chair, wiping her face quickly. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her voice cracking from sleep and anxiety. The doctor looked up immediately. "No, nothing worse. Actually, I have some updates." Amanda's heart pounded as she stood beside her son, instinctively placing a protective hand on his arm. "Okay," she whispered. "Tell me." The doctor took a breath, his tone calm but cautious. "We ran additional blood tests overnight. His numbers confirm he's fighting a significant infection, but the good news is, his body is responding to the treatment." For the first time in hours, Amanda felt her lungs take in a full breath. "So, he's improving?" she asked, afraid to believe it. "A little," the doctor nodded. "Not out of danger yet, but this is a positive sign. We'll continue monitoring him closely." Amanda nodded, her hand covering her mouth as silent relief washed over her. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Thank you so much." The doctor gave a gentle smile. "He's strong. Kids surprise us. And you being here helps more than you know." After he left, Amanda turned back toward her son. His face looked softer now, less strained. The monitors showed more stable numbers than the night before. She exhaled shakily and sat back down, watching him breathe as though memorizing it. About an hour later, the door opened again, but this time, it wasn't a nurse or a doctor. It was Amy. She walked in quietly with coffee and a small paper bag. "I figured you hadn't eaten," she said softly. Amanda blinked, surprised, overwhelmed, and grateful all at once. "You're supposed to be sleeping," Amanda murmured. Amy shrugged, sitting beside her. "Couldn't. My brain wouldn't turn off. I kept thinking about you too." Amanda took the coffee with both hands, soaking in the warmth. For a while, they didn't talk. They just sat, sisters, mothers, tired women trying to be strong. Finally, Amy spoke. "You know, you always act like you gotta do everything alone." Amanda let out a humorless laugh. "Well, somebody has to." Amy shook her head. "No. Not anymore. You don't gotta carry everything by yourself." Amanda stared ahead, her jaw tightening. It wasn't that she didn't believe Amy, it was that she wasn't used to letting go. Amy nudged her lightly. "You're allowed to be scared, Mandy." Amanda swallowed hard. "I am," she whispered. "More than I want to admit." Amy placed a hand over hers. "And we're scared with you. You're not alone." For a moment, Amanda didn't respond. Then, finally, she allowed herself to lean into the comfort she usually pushed away. She rested her head against Amy's shoulder, and her voice came out barely audible. "I just want him to be okay." Amy squeezed her hand. "He will. He's got you, and you're the toughest person I know." Amanda let out a shaky breath, and for the first time since stepping into the hospital, she felt just a little bit lighter. The fear was still there, but now, so was support. So was hope. And in that silent, sterile hospital room, hope was everything. Hours passed, and the hospital gradually shifted from late-night silence to the slow hum of morning activity. The hallway lights grew brighter, nurses exchanged shifts, and the world outside began waking up, but Amanda's world was still centered on the single hospital bed holding her son. A nurse entered with a gentle smile. "Morning, Miss Halterman. We're going to check his vitals and try to wake him a little. You can stay." Amanda stood immediately, nerves tightening again. Even good updates made her anxious. Every change felt like stepping onto a frozen lake, unsure where it might crack. The nurse carefully adjusted the bed and spoke softly to the boy. "Hey there, buddy. Time to see if we can get you to wake up a bit. Mom's right here." Amanda leaned closer, fingers lightly brushing his hair. "Come on, baby," she whispered. "Mama's here. You're safe." For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then his eyelids flickered. Amanda felt her breath catch. The nurse encouraged him softly. "That's it, come on." Finally, his eyes opened just a sliver, unfocused and groggy, but open. Amanda's voice instantly broke. Hey, buddy, she whispered, tears spilling before she could stop them. You scared me so bad. He blinked slowly, confused, trying to process the room around him. Mom, he croaked weakly. Yes, Amanda nodded, swallowing thick emotion. I'm right here. I never left. His fingers twitched, reaching for her hand, and when Amanda grabbed hold, the world seemed to stop spinning. The nurse stepped back slightly, watching the moment with a quiet smile. That's a good sign, she said softly. His body is responding. We'll keep monitoring, but this is progress. When the nurse left, Amanda stayed bent over the bed, holding her son's hand like it was the last anchor keeping her grounded. You're gonna be okay, she whispered. I promise you. After a few minutes, he drifted back to sleep, but this time it wasn't frightening. It was restful. Amanda wiped her face, exhaling slowly, exhaustion finally catching up to her. A soft knock came at the door, and when she turned, she saw someone she hadn't expected, Tammy. She rolled in slowly, breathing steady, expression softer than usual. Before you say anything, Tammy grumbled, Amy told me not to annoy you, so I'm just here. Amanda let out a small, tired laugh. I'm not gonna yell at you, Tam. Tammy moved closer to the bed, her eyes softening when she saw the child sleeping. He's strong, she said. Just like you. Amanda sank back into the chair. I don't feel strong, she admitted. I feel like everything could fall apart any second. Tammy leaned forward slightly. You know what I've learned? She said quietly. Strength doesn't mean never getting scared. It means showing up anyway. Amanda stared at her sister, surprised, emotional, and deeply moved. You've changed, Amanda whispered. Tammy smirked. Almost dying will do that to you. Amanda let out a soft snort, the first real laugh she'd had in days. Then Tammy's tone shifted deeper. You took care of me when I couldn't breathe. You fought for me when I gave up. Now it's our turn. Amanda blinked, stunned. Tammy nodded. Me, Amy, Chris, everyone. Nobody gets through life alone, even if we act like we can. Amanda swallowed hard. For years, she had been the protector, the fighter, the one who filled the silence when everyone else broke. But now, sitting in this hospital room surrounded by support she didn't expect, she realized, maybe she didn't have to be the strong one all the time. Maybe this time she could let others help carry the weight. For the first time in days, Amanda leaned back in her chair, not collapsing from exhaustion, but allowing herself to rest. Because finally she wasn't facing this alone. The room grew quiet again, the soft hum of hospital machines blending with Amanda's steady, deep breaths. Outside, the morning sun had started to filter through the blinds, casting long, golden streaks across the floor. It was almost peaceful, almost. Amanda sat beside her son, holding his small hand tightly, unwilling to let go. Amanda let out a small, tired laugh. I'm not gonna yell at you, Tam. Tammy moved closer to the bed, her eyes softening when she saw the child sleeping. He's strong, she said. Just like you. Amanda sank back into the chair. I don't feel strong, she admitted. I feel like everything could fall apart any second. Tammy leaned forward slightly. You know what I've learned? She said quietly. Strength doesn't mean never getting scared. It means showing up anyway. Amanda stared at her sister, surprised, emotional, and deeply moved. You've changed, Amanda whispered. Tammy smirked. Almost dying will do that to you. Amanda let out a soft snort, the first real laugh she'd had in days. Then Tammy's tone shifted deeper. You took care of me when I couldn't breathe. You fought for me when I gave up. Now it's our turn. Amanda blinked, stunned. Tammy nodded. Me, Amy, Chris, everyone. Nobody gets through life alone, even if we act like we can. Amanda swallowed hard. For years, she had been the protector, the fighter, the one who filled the silence when everyone else broke. But now, sitting in this hospital room surrounded by support she didn't expect, she realized, maybe she didn't have to be the strong one all the time. Maybe this time she could let others help carry the weight. For the first time in days, Amanda leaned back in her chair, not collapsing from exhaustion, but allowing herself to rest. Because, finally, she wasn't facing this alone. The room grew quiet again, the soft hum of hospital machines blending with Amanda's steady, deep breaths. Outside, the morning sun had started to filter through the blinds, casting long, golden streaks across the floor. It was almost peaceful, almost. Amanda sat beside her son, holding his small hand tightly, unwilling to let go. She stared at his sleeping face, tracing every tiny detail with her eyes, the soft curve of his cheek, the little tuft of hair falling over his forehead, the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Each breath reminded her of how fragile life could be. Tammy sat in the corner, arms crossed but shoulders relaxed, watching her sister. She didn't interrupt, knowing Amanda needed these moments alone with her child, yet the silence wasn't uncomfortable. There was a bond there, deeper than words, the kind of connection only siblings who had survived everything together could share. After a few moments, Amanda whispered softly, almost to herself, "I don't know how I'd get through this if you weren't here." Tammy finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You'd survive. You always do. But that doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself." Amanda nodded, swallowing hard, letting the tension in her body ease slightly. The constant whirlwind of fear and uncertainty had weighed on her for days, leaving her exhausted. But now, with Tammy here and her son slowly regaining strength, the storm inside her chest was starting to settle. The nurse returned, quietly checking the monitors and adjusting the four. Amanda flinched slightly at the movement, but the nurse gave her a reassuring smile. "He's stable," she said softly. "We're seeing good signs. He's responding well to the treatment, and as long as he keeps improving, we should see steady progress throughout the day." Amanda's eyes filled again, but this time with relief. She nodded, gripping her son's hand a little tighter. Thank you so much." The nurse nodded, giving a small, understanding smile before leaving. Alone with Tammy once more, Amanda exhaled slowly, a mixture of exhaustion and cautious hope. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I kept thinking, what if something happens? What if?" Her voice faltered. Tammy reached over and squeezed her shoulder gently. "You can't think like that. All the what-ifs don't change the fact that he's here. He's alive, and you're right by his side. That's what matters." Amanda's gaze softened, and she looked at her sister with gratitude. I don't know what I'd do without you." Tammy smirked faintly. "You'd survive. But I'd rather be here anyway." For a moment, the two sisters sat together in silence, letting the calm of the room wash over them. Outside, life was moving on. The hospital corridors were filling with staff and visitors, the sounds of carts and footsteps drifting through the air. But inside that room, time seemed to slow, giving Amanda a chance to breathe, to feel grounded, and to remind herself that she wasn't facing this alone. Finally, Amanda whispered, almost to her son, "You hear that, baby? We've got your back. We always will." And as he shifted slightly in his sleep, murmuring softly, she realized that for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a flicker of hope. Fragile, yes, but real. The day stretched on slowly. Sunlight moved across the floor, marking the passing hours, while Amanda never left her son's side. She barely noticed the gentle beeps of the monitors or the soft shuffle of nurses in the hallway. Everything else felt distant. The world outside the hospital walls seemed to shrink until it was just her son, and Tammy. Tammy, ever the pragmatist, finally broke the silence. "We need to think about what happens next," she said, her voice calm but insistent. "Once he's out of here, there's going to be paperwork, doctor's appointments, everything. We have to plan." Amanda looked at her sister, exhaustion etched into her features. "I know. I can't even think past this moment. I just want him to be okay." Tammy nodded, understanding perfectly. "And that's fine. But you can't ignore reality either. You have to prepare, at least a little. I'll help. We'll get through it together." Amanda closed her eyes briefly, leaning her head against her son's tiny hand. She thought of every possibility, every worst-case scenario she had imagined over the past few days. Each one had felt unbearable, but now, seeing her son's chest rise and fall steadily, each worry seemed slightly less heavy. A doctor entered quietly, clipboard in hand, smiling gently at Amanda. "Good news," she said. "He's responding well. We're keeping him here overnight just for observation, but if he continues to improve, you should be able to take him home tomorrow." Amanda felt a wave of relief crash over her. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. She squeezed her son's hand and whispered, "See? I told you we'd get through this." Tammy reached over and rested her hand on Amanda's back. "You did everything right. You stayed strong when it mattered most. That's all anyone can ask for." Amanda took a deep breath, finally letting herself relax just a little. She looked at her son, at the small, perfect life lying in her arms, and silently promised herself that she would do whatever it took to protect him. Even as the hospital room settled into a quiet rhythm, Amanda knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be appointments, recovery, and emotional healing for both her and her son. But in that moment, hope felt tangible. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to believe that everything could be okay. She looked at Tammy and smiled, a fragile but real smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Tammy squeezed her hand. "Always. No matter what." And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting warm light across the room, Amanda felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in days. The quiet, steady pulse of hope, fragile but unbroken, anchoring her to the present and to the future. The next morning, the hospital felt less intimidating. Amanda arrived early, her son still tucked into the small hospital bed, eyes blinking sleepily at the fluorescent lights above. Nurses moved efficiently, checking vitals, adjusting for lines, and offering soft reassurances. Amanda stood quietly, letting the rhythm of the morning settle her nerves. Tammy was already there, reviewing a folder full of discharge instructions. "Looks like we can take him home today," she said, without looking up. "But there's a lot we need to do first: medications, follow-up appointments, all that paperwork." Amanda nodded, gripping the edge of the bed. "I'll do whatever it takes. I want to make sure he's really okay before we leave." A doctor entered, clipboard in hand, and offered a reassuring smile. "He's doing very well. No complications overnight. If you follow the care plan we've outlined, he should continue improving at home." Amanda exhaled, relief washing over her like a wave. "Thank you," she said softly, her eyes glistening. Tammy closed the folder and looked at Amanda with a mixture of pride and concern. "You stayed strong through this. I know it wasn't easy. But now we have to make sure the next steps are followed exactly. No shortcuts." Amanda nodded, determination replacing her exhaustion. "I will. I promise." The process of discharge was slow but manageable. Medications were explained, instructions were read aloud, and Amanda asked countless questions, each answered with patience. Tammy stayed at her side the whole time, occasionally offering gentle reminders and quiet encouragement. Finally, the moment came to leave the hospital. Amanda held her son close, grateful for every steady heartbeat, every tiny breath that reassured her he was safe. The ride home was quiet, contemplative, with Amanda staring out the window, lost in thought. She knew this experience would change her, perhaps forever. The fear, the uncertainty, the helplessness she had felt in the emergency room was something she would never forget. But it also strengthened a resolve she had always carried deep inside, the determination to protect her son at all costs. As they pulled into the driveway, Amanda felt a small smile creep across her face. Life was messy, unpredictable, and often frightening, but it was also full of moments like this, small victories, tender connections, and the chance to start anew, even after the darkest nights. Tammy opened the door and stepped out, giving Amanda a reassuring nod. "We're home. We'll handle the rest together." Amanda hugged her son a little tighter, feeling the weight of the past few days lift slightly. For the first time since the emergency room, she allowed herself a deep, steady breath. Yes, the road ahead was uncertain. But for now, she had her son, she had her sister, and she had hope. That, she realized, was more than enough to begin moving forward. Once inside the house, Amanda carefully settled her son onto the couch, making sure he was comfortable and had everything he needed within reach. Tammy began unpacking the small bag of supplies they had brought from the hospital, medications, snacks, and a few toys to distract and comfort him. "I know you're tired," Tammy said gently, placing a hand on Amanda's shoulder. "But we need to keep a close eye on him for the next few days. Any changes, we call the doctor immediately." Amanda nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her again. "I know. I'll watch him like a hawk. I can't let anything happen again." Her son looked up at her, still groggy but smiling faintly. "Mom," he whispered. Amanda's heart melted. "I'm right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere." Tammy watched them quietly, her eyes softening. She had seen Amanda endure so much over the years, her health struggles, the public scrutiny, the emotional roller coaster of reality TV life, but seeing her mother in this role, vulnerable yet unwavering, was something different. There was a raw courage in Amanda that wasn't captured on camera. Later, as her son drifted into a light nap, Amanda sat in the living room, trying to process the whirlwind of events. The fear, the uncertainty, the helplessness, all of it had been overwhelming. But now, seeing him safe, breathing steadily, she felt a small sense of calm she hadn't felt in days. She pulled out her phone and opened a message thread from a friend checking in. "Everything okay?" the message read. Amanda hesitated, then typed back, "Yes, he's home. Still shaken, but we're safe." As she set the phone down, she realized that life would never be the same after this ordeal. The fear she had felt wasn't something she could easily shake, but it had also awakened a deeper sense of vigilance and appreciation. Every hug, every laugh, every quiet moment with her son was now more precious than ever. Tammy came over and handed her a cup of tea. "Drink this. You've earned it," she said softly. Amanda took the cup, inhaling the warmth and aroma, and allowed herself a moment to simply breathe. The storm was far from over. There would be follow-up appointments, careful monitoring, and likely lingering anxiety for both her and her son. But for now, they were home, safe, together. And that was enough to start healing. As the evening wore on, Amanda began preparing a light dinner for her son, carefully selecting foods that would be gentle on his stomach and easy for him to digest. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards as she moved around the kitchen. Each sound made her flinch slightly, her nerves still on edge from the day's events. Tammy sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. "I've been reading the comments online," she said cautiously. "People are worried, Amanda. But they're also sending messages of support. It's a lot, but it's nice to see some positivity." Amanda gave a small, tired smile. "I know people are concerned. I appreciate it. But right now, I just need to focus on him." She gestured toward her son, who was quietly playing with a small toy car in the living room. The simple sight of him, smiling softly, gave her a surge of relief that she hadn't realized she needed. Once dinner was ready, Amanda called him to the table. He sat obediently, still pale but gradually regaining his energy. They ate quietly, the tension in the room slowly easing. Amanda tried to engage him in conversation, asking about his favorite part of the hospital stay, the toys, the nurses, or the television shows, anything to bring normalcy back into their day. After dinner, Tammy helped him get ready for bed, brushing his hair and reading him a short story. Amanda watched from the doorway, feeling both pride and exhaustion. There was something profoundly grounding about these small, everyday moments, especially after such a chaotic and frightening day. When he finally drifted off to sleep, Amanda and Tammy sat together on the couch, reflecting on everything that had happened. "I hate that this happened," Tammy said softly. "No parent should have to go through that kind of fear." Amanda nodded, her hands wrapped around a mug of warm tea. "I know. But it did happen. And now we just have to be stronger, smarter, more vigilant. I'll never take a single moment for granted. The weight of her emotions pressed heavily against her chest, but in the quiet, Amanda felt a flicker of resolve. She knew the days ahead would not be easy, follow-up appointments, lingering fear, and the emotional aftermath, but she also knew that she would face them head-on. Tonight, she allowed herself one small comfort. The house was calm, her son was safe, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she could breathe without panic. In that quiet moment, Amanda understood that life had changed, but her love for her son and her determination to protect him would remain unshaken, no matter what challenges the future might bring. The next morning, Amanda woke early, the sunlight filtering softly through the blinds. Her son was still asleep, curled up under his blanket, and she watched him for a moment, taking in the steady rise and fall of his chest. Relief washed over her. He had slept through the night without incident. Tammy had already started breakfast in the kitchen. "Coffee's ready," she called, her voice cheerful but tinged with concern. "We've got a long day ahead. Doctor's orders, follow-ups, you know the drill." Amanda nodded, pouring herself a cup and taking a slow sip. The warmth grounded her, giving her a brief moment to collect her thoughts. She felt the lingering anxiety from the hospital, the flashing images of monitors and nurses, and the uncertainty of what came next. But now, in the quiet of her home, she could plan her steps carefully. After breakfast, they prepared for the follow-up appointment. Amanda's son clutched his favorite stuffed animal, a small comfort amidst all the upheaval. Tammy walked beside them, gently talking to him, distracting him from the tension Amanda felt in her own chest. At the clinic, the staff greeted them warmly, aware of the recent ordeal. The doctor examined her son thoroughly, praising his resilience and assuring Amanda that he was recovering well. "You're doing a great job, Amanda," the doctor said kindly. "It's clear he has a strong support system at home. That makes all the difference." Amanda nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and lingering guilt. She knew that the incident at the hospital would always linger in her memory, but hearing reassurance from the doctor gave her some hope that they could move forward. Outside the clinic, Tammy turned to her. "You've handled everything so well. Honestly, I don't know how you do it." Amanda smiled faintly. "I have to. He needs me. And I've learned that fear doesn't get to control me. I can't undo what happened, but I can protect him moving forward. That's all that matters." As they walked to the car, Amanda felt the weight of the past few days gradually lift, replaced with cautious determination. She knew challenges were still ahead, follow-up care, monitoring his health, and rebuilding a sense of normalcy, but she also knew they would face them together. Once home, Amanda settled her son with a quiet activity while she took a moment for herself. Sitting on the couch with her tea, she reflected on the past week's turmoil. The events at the hospital, the fear, the chaos, it had all been overwhelming. Yet, the strength she found within herself reminded her that she could handle the uncertainty. That evening, as she tucked her son into bed again, Amanda whispered softly, "We made it through today, little one. And tomorrow, we'll keep going." For the first time in days, a sense of calm washed over her. Life wasn't perfect, and there would still be struggles ahead, but in that quiet moment, Amanda felt grounded. She had faced fear head-on, and she knew she would continue to do so, for herself and for the child she loved more than anything in the world.